Welcome back. In the previous video, we have printed the neighbors for the hex with position 000, and in this video I would like to implement a way for us to be able to select the hex using our mouse click, as well as to make it a bit more visual for us to see those neighbors. This we will do using a custom shader, and we are going to use the same method to show the character range later on. For now, what I will want to do is create a new script called player input. This script will be responsible for detecting in the update when we have clicked the right mouse button, so if input.get mouse button down 0, and we are going to get the mouse position as the vector 3, and we are going to use Unity event that I need to import, so using Unity engine.events, and we are going to have a public Unity event that sends vector 3 to a method that will be listening to this event. Okay, we are going to create a new game object called player input, and we are going to reset its transform and assign our player input here so we can see our event. We are going to create another script called selection manager. Okay, now this script will be responsible for listening to the clicks events from our player input. We will need to have a reference to a camera, which will be a serialized field private camera main camera, and we are going to have a public layer mask, a selection mask. Okay, and this will be only because we will shoot a raycast and detect the collider where we have clicked using our mouse. Now in the awake method, we are going to simply assign the camera to be camera.main if we haven't assigned the main camera through the inspector. Next, we are going to create a method, public void handle click, that takes vector 3 mouse input so that we can assign it through the inspector to our Unity event pointer click. Now inside this method, we are going to find out if we have clicked on a hex or not. For this, we are going to create game object result inside this handle click method, and we are going to check if find target, we're going to pass the mouse position and add out result, so we are going to return the result to this game object, and this is why we need this out keyword before the result. Right click on this find target quick action and generate this method, and inside this method we are going to create a raycast, hit, and ray equals main camera screen to ray, and we are going to pass the mouse position. Next, we are going to simply check if physics.raycast array as the array, out hit, so this will be the result, and selection mask that we have defined above. And if we have hit a hex, we are going to call result equals hit.collider.gameObject, and we are going to return true. Else, we need to assign something to a game object with the keyword out. We simply need to do this in this method. So we are going to assign result equals null and return false if we have clicked somewhere where there is no collider of type hex. Now, if we know that we have selected a hex, so the result should have the component hex on it, so we can simply call hex selected hex equals result.getComponent of type hex. And we can go back to our hex grid. What we did in the start, we have received our neighbors list, and we have debug.logged all the neighbors. So let's cut it out from our start. Let's save this hex grid. Let's go back to our selection manager and let's paste it inside our handle click method. Now, first of all, we need to have a reference to our hex grid. So at the top, let's create public hex grid. Let's call it hex grid. Now we are going to assign it through the inspector. So what we will want to do is we are going to call hexgrid.getNeighbors4, and we are going to pass to our getNeighbors4 the selected hex.hex chords, which should return us the hex coordinates, and we are going to get the neighbors list, and we are going to debug them. And what we will want to do is now in this debug.log statement also print the hex chords. So let's add, instead of this 000, we are going to add those strange brackets, and we are going to pass here this, and at the front of the string we need to add the $sign so that we can format the string to contain this hex chords. Let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Okay, we need to right click and create a selection system. Okay, let's reset the transform of this game object, and let's assign our selection manager here. I will assign the camera, and before I can assign the selection mask, I will select our hex grid and assign it. Now for our layers, I will select in the top right corner of Unity edit layers, and I have prepared layer 6 is hex styles and layer 7 is characters. Now I will select one of the hexes, open the prefab and set the layer to be hex styles and only change it for this object, not for the children. So this way we can select this mesh collider that we have placed on this hex parent using this hex forest mesh to create the collider. And now we are going to be able to detect this hex, and it has on it hex script, so we should be good to go. Now in our player input we need to add a listener here, assign our selection system, select the function, select the selection manager and select handle click method. Okay, and now we can select our selection system and select selection mask, and I will select for now the hex styles only. Now we should be able to test our system, so let's press play, and when the Unity runs we will click on one of the hexes here, and as you can see, neighbors for 0, 0, -2. Let's select this 0, 0, -2, so this is correct, and we have those hexes 0, 0, -1, it is correct. Next one is 1, 0, -1, this is correct. And next one is 1, 0, -1, this is correct. Now this is a terrible way to check those results by clicking on those hexes in the inspector. So now I would like to create a way to highlight the hexes that are the neighbors of our selected hex style. And since I'm using a universal rendering pipeline, create in our assets, create, and I'm going to select a shader, universal rendering pipeline, and a sprite lit shader graph. Okay, I will call it glow shader. Okay, and what I will want to do is double tap on it to open the shader graph. I'll right click on the graph and maximize it to be able to work with it a bit better. First of all, make sure that you see all of those windows. So in the top right corner you can uncheck and check the main preview, graph inspector and blackboard. And we are going to create some properties. So we need to add, using this plus icon, a float. This will be glow power. Next we are going to add a color. This will be glow color. Next one will be another color, and this will be the default color. And the last property will be a bool type, and this will be called dynamic glow. This will be important later on when we create a character, and I will want to indicate that this one is selected. Now starting from the glow power, what we want to set in the graph inspector is the default value to be 1. Now for the glow color, and we can select the default color, I will select it to be for example this green, and I will want to select the mode to be HDR and the intensity to be +2, for example. Okay, now the default color, this is very important. I will want to set the reference name to be _color. This is the default reference to the color of the material, because we are going to set the material through the script, and if we set this to be color, _color, we are going to be able to easily access it by calling material.color. And we want to select our dynamic glow boolean flag, and let's set it to be default to be true. Now we can drag our inspector away, because we are going to start creating our graph. So first thing that we want to have is our glow power. We can drag it to the graph, and we are going to drag this output from this glow power, and we are going to pass it to a Frenzel effect, and we are going to return a power. Okay, so now this is the input is the power, and we are going to output the Frenzel effect from it, which will be the main component to create our glow. Now the output front, again, let's drag it and let's type multiply to create a multiply node, and we are going to drag here our glow color and add it as the A value. Now as you can see, this creates us this preview, and this will be our glow. Now we will want to drag a bit our vertex and fragment nodes, and we are going to drag the output from the multiply to another multiply, and we are going to drag the result to be the emission of our vertex. Nothing happens because we didn't assign for this second multiply input anything. Now let's press spacebar to create a new node, and I will select time node, and I will select the sine time output and create remap node. Okay, and this will allow us to remap the output from the time, and I will select -1, 1 for the x, and for the second output min max, we are going to set 0.1 as min and 1 as max, so that we never get the value below 0.1. Now, just for safety, we are going to clamp it, so let's type clamp, and we are going to clamp it between 0.1 and 1, and now we want to maybe drag those nodes a bit backwards because we need to create a branch node. So this is kind of an if statement in the shaders, and we are going to drag the output of this as the true value. So if we want to have a dynamic glow, let's drag this dynamic glow boolean flag from our parameters here, and this will be our predicate. So if we want to have the dynamic glow, we will want this glow effect to be dimming out and brightening up. And the second value will be 1. So if we do not want to have the dynamic glow, the highlight will be persistent, and this will be for our hexes. So now from our branch output, we are going to drag it to our multiply, and now, as you can see in our main preview, we are going to have this kind of effect when if the dynamic glow is set to be true, this will be brightening out up and dimming out, and if we set it to be false, this will be constantly bright. Okay, this is the idea here. Let's save this asset. The button is in the top left corner of this window. Right click on this glow shader and uncheck maximize. Now what we can do is go to our scene view. In the hierarchy, right, select this plus icon. Let's add a cube and let's drag it a bit up so that we can see it in our scene view, in our game view. And what we can do is we can create from our glow shader, right click, create a material. Let's accept the default name, and I will assign it to our cube. And as you can see, if I focus on it, it will be getting brighter and dimming out. Let's press play to see the result a bit better. And basically, this will be the result. We are going to, of course, modify the colors of this, but basically this is the idea. Now, this isn't a terribly pretty shader. If you want to learn more about shaders, I recommend that you check out Jet Elite channel. They have some amazing videos about creating shaders, as well as they are releasing the Unity Shader Bible, which contains a lot of information about how to create shaders in Unity. And I think the first chapter is free when the book is in the early access, so you can check it out. Also, the link will be in the description of this video. Now, back with our project. Now this is our shader, and this is only the emission of our glow shader. Now I have forgotten to do one thing, and this is because we have only glow, the base color will always be this white. So we need to open our shader and maximize it. And if you don't have it opened, you can simply double tap on this shader to open the shader graph. And what we will want to do is we will want to assign our default color to be the output color of our shader. This will allow us to change the default color from this black to be, for example, red, and the model will be of this color, and the glow will only be on the outline of this model. What we want to do is change the material of our hexes to indicate that we are having those selected, or they are the neighbors of our selected hex. We are going to create a script that will swap the materials for those models at runtime when we want to show that those are the neighbors of our selected hex. Let's delete our cube and let's go to our scripts. Right click, create a new C# script, and I'm going to call it glow highlight. Okay. So the idea is that if we want to swap a material or a shader of an object, we need to swap it for a different material. And to do this, we are going to have a couple of dictionaries. So basically, if we select one of the hexes, a hex forest has this green material. And we are going to get the color from this green material assigned to our custom glow material. And when we want to select this hex, we are going to swap this green material for our glow material. And when we want to deselect this hex, we are going to swap it back to the original green material. Now, to be able to do all of this, we need to prepare a dictionary with the key as the renderer and the array of materials of the glow materials and of the original materials. so that you can swap between them easily. Now we are going to also have a dictionary color material cached glow materials, and this will be because we are going to create a new material per each original material, and since there will be duplicates of those original materials, we are going to cache the glow materials and reuse them when we have already created those. Last thing are the public material glow material reference that we are going to use to create our glow materials, and a private bool is glowing that we are going to use later when we want to turn on or off the glow of a hex. So in the awake, what we are going to do is call a prepare material dictionaries method. Right click on it and generate this method. So the idea here is simple. Our glow highlight will be assigned to each hex. Each hex or a character will have multiple renders on it because those will be the children of the hex object or the character object. So we're going to look for each renderer in get components in children. So we are going to find all the renderers on this component. Now in this for each loop, we are going to create a list of materials, original materials, and those are assigned to a renderer. We can access them calling .materials. And since we have access to the original materials, we are going to assign the reference to them to our original material dictionary. Add renderer will be the key for it, and the materials array will be the values. So now we have basically saved the original materials to our dictionary so we can return to them when we want to. Next, we're going to create a new materials array equals the new material array, and we are going to set the length of it to be the renderer materials length. But instead of getting the original material with the original shader, we are going to look for each int I equals 0, I less than original materials.length, I plus plus. And we are going to look for each material and create a new material mat equals null. Now, if our cached glow materials dictionary has this material already for this color, so we are going to try get value, original materials I dot color. And we are going to get out mat, so try to get value. It will return null, or if the material is there, we are going to get the material reference. Now, if this is false, this means that this material is null. So we are going to create mat equals new material, and we are going to basically create a copy of the glow material that we have provided here as a reference. Now, to set the color, we are going to call mat.color, and this is why I have said that this was very important to set the reference to the default color to be _color. From the documentation, we can read that by default Unity considers a color with the property name _color to be the main color. Mat color equals original material I dot color. So basically we have assigned the same green color to our glow material copy. And we are going to assign the new materials I equals the material that we have either returned from the cached glow materials dictionary or created here. And at the end, we are going to add to the glow materials dictionary, so the glow materials for this for each renderer, the renderer, and the new materials array that we have filled in here in this for loop. Now, to be able to swap those materials to make our hexes glow or be highlighted, we are going to have two methods. One will be public void toggle glow, which will be using our bool flag is glowing. Now, if this is false, we are going to look for each renderer in our original materials dictionary.keys, because we have already saved those, we do not need to find them again, and we are going to assign renderer.materials to be the same key renderer from our glow materials dictionary. So this will be returning us an array of materials from a glow dictionary. If we want to revert this process, we are going to loop again for each renderer in our original materials, and we are going to assign to it the materials from our original material dictionary to reset the look of our hexes. And we are going to set is glowing to be the opposite of what it is currently. Now the second method will be simply to pass the state that we want to achieve. We are going to reset the glowing or do nothing if the material is already glowing or not glowing, and we are going to toggle the glow to, for example, disable the glow for our hexes. Let's save our script and let's go back to Unity. Great! All we need to do is go to our hex prefab, open it up, and let's assign our glow highlight. Now, as you might recall, it finds all the renderers, so it will find anything that is in the main child and in the props. It will swap all the materials for all of those objects to our glow material. Now it will only work for the materials that has only the color, not the texture. Okay, so let's go back, let's save the prefab. And now to actually be able to use this glow highlight, we are going to open the Hex script. All we will have here is again, a private reference of our glow highlight. We can assign it through the inspector by adding serialized field, but we can of course get it in the awake. So highlight equals get component of type glow highlight. And we will add two methods to this class, enable highlight and disable highlight, which will simply set the highlight toggle glow to true and highlight toggle glow to false. Let's save it, and we are going to use this to highlight the neighbors of the selected hex. So to do this, we need to go back to our selection manager, to our handle click method. If you have the script opened, all we need to do is extract this list of neighbors to be a private list of our selection manager script. This is because we will want to reset the currently selected neighbors, so reset the highlight on them and highlight the new neighbors. So what we can do is loop for each, and this will be a vector 3 int neighbor in our neighbors. And we are going to use hexgrid.getTileAdd. We are going to pass the neighbor parameter, and we are going to disable the highlight. Now, of course, we should have some sort of a null check here, but this should disable the highlight for all the neighbors. And if this is null, we need to, of course, assign our list of neighbors equals new list, so it will simply be an empty list, so this will work without any issue. Now we can copy this, and basically after we have found the new neighbors, we can simply enable highlight on them. And this way we are going to be sure that we highlight only the correct neighbors. Now last thing I would like to do is disable the highlight of the selected hex. So disable highlight, and this now will ensure that we do not have this highlighted as well. Okay, so let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Now before we can test it, let's go back to our hex prefab, because what I have forgotten to do is to assign our glow material. Let's select our assets where we have created our material, and let's select our glow color, and I will select it to be a bit white, so this should be much more in tune with our green hexes. Now let's select our hex, the glow highlight, and let's assign our material to be glow material. Now let's go back, let's save the prefab, and if we press play now, we should see that if we click on one of those hexes, we're going to see that those hexes got a highlight and is dimming out and lighting up, but this is a pretty intense color. So let's stop the game, and what we can do is select our shader, our material. We can select our glow highlight, and we can set the intensity to be 0. Okay, and now let's uncheck the dynamic glow, because I want it to simply constantly glow instead of blinking. So let's press play now, and let's select one of the hexes. And now this is much more subtle, and now we can see finally that we are selecting the correct neighbors for each of those hexes. Now of course this will work for all the props that I add, simply by selecting a hex and placing some props that we have from our assets in the props as a child of a props object inside the hex. We can add anything here, and this will also highlight using our system, and if we reset it, it will be resetted because our script handles all the materials inside the hex game object. Now, if you want to learn more about making 2D games in Unity and you want to support the channel, you can check out my video courses. The link will be in the description. In the next video, we are going to create a character, and we are going to explore how to use breadth first search to detect where we can go and what is considered a difficult terrain, what is considered an obstacle, and what is considered a road. Okay, see you in the next video.